Welcome back to another exciting episode of Making Space with Angela Dragon. Today, my guest is Star Bradbury, who is indeed a star. She has written a fabulous book that I recommend to everybody called Successfully Navigating Your Parents' Senior Years. So stay tuned for a wealth of wisdom and knowledge in supporting your aging parents. Also, partway through the episode, stay tuned for Grandma's Second Chance, where I have a special segment and a special guest that will help you figure out how to give your items the best chance at having another shot at life in a new home. I am delighted to have a dear friend, Star Bradbury, here today. She has a ton of experience in senior work. And so she wrote this amazing, you can see delightfully thick book called Successfully Navigating Your Parents' Senior Years. And as many of you know, my business is Simplify Home Organizing, and more than half of our clients are either seniors or the adult children of seniors, helping them to declutter and downsize. And so I wanted to have Star on the podcast, one, because I adore her and I like talking to her and I think she's delightful.
Fan club.
Mutual fan club here. And also because I know she has so much wisdom and knowledge to share with us today. So Star, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you. I'm delighted, and I'm so happy that you're doing a podcast because you also have a wealth of information. And in dealing with the population that you're working with, you see how things spin out of control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Easily for people.
Easily
Yeah.
and often.
Mm-hmm. And then of course, like as you refer to the other part of the people that the group that you're helping,
Mm-hmm.
are the people I kind of wrote my book for, the adult children of older people who are suddenly often called in to these situations where, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff.
Yeah. So I know
And
you
that's
have.
where you step in.
Yes, exactly. Right. And we help them with this stuff. I want to try to set this up just so people can see it the entire time. If
okay.
it'll balance there. There we go. That feels
Okay.
better.
That's good.
So just to begin, I have so many questions I could ask you. So just to begin, kind of like a big picture, what are some of the most important things let's start with the adult children
Mhm.
of aging seniors. I know everybody wants to age in place, or most people want to age in place. The one thing that I would love a little more specifically to talk about is what advice would you give to those adult children when they're having those difficult conversations about the future with their aging parents?
Here's what I would say, and I do have a lot to share on
Yes,
this.
please,
You
go
asked
for
me
it.
to sort of condense, like
No.
one critical question to start with for adult children is start the conversation with your parents really, really early. Because I've had 25 years in senior living. I guess I'll do a little mini intro.
Please.
No, I would never, ever, ever have predicted that I would make a career out of senior living and helping seniors. But I ended up actually choosing it because I like helping people. I love working with seniors. And let's fast forward, 25 years. I was the administrative director of an assisted living facility. I was the administrative and marketing director for memory care and assisted living. And then I spent 20 years in a life care community, which is a whole nother type of retirement community that provides ongoing care. That's another whole podcast, seriously. But the mistake that I see older children often make is it goes something like this. But Dad was just playing golf 5 times a week, just last week. And now he's in the hospital and they're saying he can't go home. He can't live alone. Or I didn't realize Mom's dementia or confusion was as bad as it is. Dad was kind of covering up for her. And now that he's gone, or now that he's in the hospital, and Mom isn't functioning very well. And I went to visit her and the mail is all over the house and the bills aren't getting paid and she's forgetting about appointments I could go on and on and on with that type of story. And so what I see is adult children somewhat in denial about an honest evaluation of how their parents may be doing as they're aging. And then things spiral out of control. Now you as an adult child, and most of the adult children I know, including my own, they're maxed out. They're already so maxed out with their full-time careers, raising children, their own issues and problems. Let's not even talk about the anxiety and stress of the world we happen to be living in right now. And so that now you're going to throw in your aging parents who may not even live in the same state. And you're trying to figure out what to do. So I wrote
I feel overwhelmed just thinking about that. Sorry.
I managed to depress you already. Well, really, honestly, one of the motivations for writing this book is to encourage people, even amongst the busyness of your life, to be proactive about steps you can take to be prepared for the inevitable. So somebody may indeed be playing golf 5 times a week. Somebody may indeed be full tilt. You know, I have friends who say, I can't even keep up with my parents. You know, they're leaving for Europe next week and they're going for that and they're traveling. So one way to think about this, and I talk about this, all of this in the book, is um, what's a good way to think about this? Well, I call it the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years.
Okay.
Okay. So you may be saying, nothing to worry about. My parents are in the go-go years.
I was picturing go-go boots with that. Also, like dance, like hopefully when I'm in my go-go years, I'm in go-go
right
boots.
era.
Yeah,
Right?
going, lots of going, and also with go-go boots. But go on.
Oh, white ones too.
Yes, that's what I'm picturing.
You'd look great in them, honey. So yeah, if your parents are in the go-go years, please do not assume that they'll be that way forever, because they won't. They won't. And so if you see them in the go-go years, people say to me all the time, when is the perfect age to have a sit-down conversation with your parents? And I say, and I know,
Yesterday,
I've done this
right?
so long, they're thinking, you know, maybe in their late 70s or their 80s. No, no. When they're in their mid-60s, before they've even retired.
Wow.
And a conversation would go something like this.
Oh, yes.
I model conversations in the book because this is so hard to do. Because you're thinking, how am I going to bring this up with my parents? They're still doing, and you would say something like this, Mom, Dad, you know, I am thinking about planning ahead, or at least kind of knowing what your plans, what are you thinking of for retirement and post-retirement planning, which nobody does.
Post-retirement. I've never even heard that word.
I used to do a lot of public speaking, and when I worked at the life care community, we traveled all over the Southeast before this community opened and was built even. And I used to say, who in the room has done retirement planning? It was a loaded question. I knew the answer. If they're showing up at a program about a life care community, they're thinking about this already.
Yeah.
But most people aren't. And of course, everyone would raise their hand. And then I would say, how many of you done post-retirement planning? Meh.
Yeah.
Because it's a huge hole in people's planning. Everyone is so focused from our culture
Just to get to the
point.
Yeah, and it's like, now what do I do?
That's right. Now what? And so, you know, but if you think about it this way, Angela, the fastest growing demographic in the United States today is 90 to 100.
Really?
Look it up. I'm not
That's
making
not
this
what I
up.
thought you were going to say at all.
I know. No, nobody does, but it is 90 to 100. I know my friend's mother's 102. She's well enough to travel here from Pennsylvania to visit. I have a lot of friends in their 90s, or their parents are in their 90s.
Yeah.
And because people are living longer, that is a long rate. Let's say you retire at 65 or even 70 and you live to 100. That's a pretty long span of time. So my message is, get a copy of this book. Look at what you can do proactively to begin these conversations very early. And then just listen. See what your parents are going to say. Oh, we're going to stay here in Florida after we retire. And, oh, I'm thinking about moving closer to my daughter, my son, to you. You're the child that's asking. Or you could put out that you're willing, because believe me, being a little more realistic and prepared for changes in your parents' health and ability to live independently will prepare you when it is not a crisis. And you can be on their team. Don't think you can tell them what to do.
Of course,
That,
yes.
that never goes well.
Nope, it does not.
It's how you can begin these conversations and offer to be part of that planning process and team long, long before. I always say, here's a good way to sort of introduce this topic. You can say things like, my best friend Susie is going through this. Her parents are a little older, and it's been really, really difficult for her. I'm watching her go through this crisis. Her father's in the hospital, blah, blah, blah. Her mother's just got diagnosed with fill in the blank. And I was just wondering, what would I do, Mom, Dad, if something happened to you in the future and I didn't even know, what your plans are. Now, when you start to get into that level of a conversation, it's a little more confronting because now you're talking about a change in health. So it's easier, of course, sort of back it up and start it with, are you going to stay here when you retire? Are you going to move? What are you thinking about? And then you're creating, let's just say, a habit of having conversations early so that as things change and as things develop, you'll have opened the door to those conversations. I have an imaginary family that I carry through the whole book, through lifespans and crises and a parent passing away, and how this family deals with it. So I can take the principles I talk about and the five steps of aging successfully that you can apply to make it more practical.
Yeah. This is all, I just have to admit, this is all
a
landing. I'm like having to take breaths and like regulate my nervous system over here because I have aging parents. My mom is 70 and my stepdad's 61. He's much younger.
Oh, good for
Still
her.
working. Yeah. Good for her. I learned from her. But she's had some health challenges over the last probably 10 years, but it's just very off and on. And honestly, I have to admit, I bought your book maybe like a year ago, like around whenever I first met her, a year and a half or so, whenever we first interacted. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a book I definitely need to own. Haven't actually read it yet.
That's the hard part.
Because I can
so
feel,
easy.
But I know it's resistance, right? Like I started reading it. It seems to be beautifully written, wonderfully organized. And I think it's just I can feel even in myself. And even though I'm with people all day, that I see what happens when you ignore it.
Oh, it won't happen.
Or when you act like we're all invincible. Yes, I have eternal youth. And
well, be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
We're all human beings with our typical foibles, one of which is, as you see in your business, procrastination.
Yep.
And we don't want to do something unless we absolutely have to, especially if you're super busy. Yeah. And so, I had the decision about writing the book for seniors or writing the book for adult children of seniors. Yeah. But in my 25 years in senior living, I really saw that while both groups need help and need advice, it's the adult children that haven't had the life's experience that their parents have had. And so they feel ill-equipped to offer advice and really where do I even begin? But there's a couple of things I'd like to bring up. And one, when I talk about the 5 steps of aging successfully, it's kind of a way to approach organizing your thoughts. And I will say that in all of the book presentations and tours that I did, people would buy 5 books for them and they would say, I'm reading it for me as a senior and buying 4 books for my 4 kids. And encouraging them to read. And to which
so we can all have the conversations together.
Yes, exactly. Beautiful. Exactly. What I would say is that's great, provided, that you sort of check in and say, let me know when you finish the book, sweetheart, mother to son, daughter. And then I'd like to have a Zoom call because almost everybody's so spread out, right? And let's just talk about making a loose plan, some kind of a plan.
Yes, some
about
kind of
what
a plan.
I can
some
tell
plan.
you what my wishes are. Yeah,
better than no
some plan is better.
Because my mom and I have had those conversations where years ago, even maybe just 5 years ago, she's like, "Oh, honey, just put me in a home or something. I don't want to burden you. Just come visit me every once."
That is not a plan.
Everybody says that, but then as she's aged, she's like, oh my gosh, I don't want that at all.
Exactly. Don't say,
And I'm like, I don't want that for you
don't,
either. Yeah. So what are we going to do? We haven't really, we've had
yes.
some honest conversations, partly from my own health challenges, where
Yes.
which you know about.
Yes.
And so I created a will, even I'm 45, and I already have a will.
I tell people, unless you can know the day you're going to die, you should have a will.
Tomorrow is not guaranteed.
That's
and I'm
right.
acutely aware of that from my own health challenges, as well as from the work that I do on the world.
You see,
seeing sudden things
you're
happen.
going in after somebody's passed away to clean up a house, and then you're also going in and helping people downsize and move.
Yes.
Well, it's so challenging, and my experience is that it's hard to watch your own parents age. And it's so much easier to think they're always going to be here and they're always going to be there for you. And that shift in both sort of responsibility and, let's just say, care starts to shift if your parents are getting older and aging. And you become the one they're turning to more.
Right.
It's very confronting.
The dynamic just completely shifts.
It's a very difficult dynamic. But our medical system is so challenged. I'm being kind.
Very generous of you, yes.
that once your parents do start to have medical concerns, you're really, really thrown into a huge fast education. And I think it would be useful to give people sort of a little bit about the sort of the different parts in my book and the breadth of the book. If I can find it.
Yeah, and you had mentioned the 5 stages.
Yes, and I'm going to come back to that. But part 1 is I call develop a plan. No surprise there. How to get the ball rolling, where I actually mirror conversations to start depending on where you're at. And then critical medical information, which is one of the stages I'll talk about. Making sure that you even know their medical condition diagnosis. And I mean, I did get one of those calls in the middle of the night. Your dad, I'm in Florida, Dad's in New York City. Your father's been transported to the hospital, and can you tell us what his diagnosis? Because he didn't have anybody at the time. If you do not want to be in one of those positions.
Hundreds of miles
I
away.
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. What? Huh? Especially if they're on medications, and it's not like you become their doctor and you have to know everything they're taking, but it's generally a good idea to know, and also at least where to find some of this information.
Yeah.
Oh,
which actually, before you go on, I want to mention that because one of the things that we try to impart upon our clients, you imagine where I'm going already.
Yes, I do.
Is making sure you first have the will.
Yes. I have a story about that.
I mean, I can tell you horror stories too.
Yes.
You have way more than I do, I'm sure.
The will should be here.
Yes, right. Making sure you at least have the will first. That's step 1. Actually have the will, advanced directives, like all of that. Just invest in it at any age, just so you have something for people. And then the other very important step is making sure people know where to find it. I can't tell you how many homes we've been in where it's like trying to find the medical paperwork, the will.
It's a nightmare.
It is.
And people are not necessarily organized, much less digital files or passwords.
Right.
That's a huge, huge issue where people don't have passwords and they're blocked from the information.
Yep.
It's hard to stay focused because in my mind I'm racing toward a million answers to some of these issues and questions. But anyway,
it's because you know so much, Star. You have such a big brain full of
I've been accused of being the fire hose, like, stop.
Yeah.
But that's why I put it in a book, because people can read it at their leisure, Anyway, part 1 is develop a plan, get the ball rolling, critical medical information, financial information, what you don't know will hurt you, and do your parents need help now? Then that's a different category. You're in a whole different world if your parents are already
after go-go?
Yes, yeah. They're not in the go-go. They're in the slow-go, and you see things changing medically, or they're really in the no-go years. They're perhaps not able to live independently anymore without help. Part 2 is location, location, location. And that's really part of the 5 stages is where should your parents live? And really, where do they want to live?
Yes. I always just kind of assumed in the back of my mind that my mom at some point would want to live near me. I'm an only child.
Uh-huh.
I just was like, Gainesville's lovely. I
Yeah.
love the city. I love Gainesville. And I said something to her about it after her last heart attack.
Oh
I was
boy.
there in the hospital, and then
Uh-huh.
afterwards we were talking at the
Mm.
dining room table a couple days later, and she was feeling really well again. And I was like, at some point we should probably talk about some of these things when you're ready.
Is she open to moving?
She does not want to live in Gainesville. She was like, I would never live in Gainesville. Like, she just kind of scoffed at it. And I was like, wait, what? Like, and again, it's like, this is why we have to have the conversation.
These conversations.
Or
You're
both assuming
operating in another world.
Completely different.
Yeah,
It's like, then talking, we haven't come back to that conversation yet. Because I think she just doesn't want to think about it. My stepdad doesn't want to think. I don't want to think about it. It's hard because nobody wants to think about their own mortality. We don't want to think about our bodies aging.
I had the conversation not too long ago with my own husband, in which I said, well, now that we've downsized,
relatively.
Yeah, that's just a whole nother
You've been through a lot, I know.
Yes. Let's talk about our next plan. I'm a big planner, obviously.
Clearly.
Based on my 25 years in senior living, highly motivating, and my own personal experience, having lost both sets of parents. My parents divorced, remarried, so I had a mother and stepfather, father and stepmother, and sisters and friends, and I've really had a lot of experience in both loss and watching the ramifications of decision making by older people or avoiding decisions, and the consequences of all of that. Again, why I wrote my book, to save you some headache here.
So you're still having the conversation with your husband now about, okay, now that we made the downsize.
If I die first, would you stay here?
Yeah.
I just came out and asked him.
Good for you.
And then we had a conversation, and he said no and explained why and what he would probably do. And I said, well, if you pass away first, I probably would stay in this house for as long as I could. And then, so, I've always got a plan going.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so much courage.
Part 3 is when your parents need more help and care. Because if I asked you to tell me the difference between home care and home health care, I would be surprised if you got it right.
Mm-hmm. I only know a little bit from my field, but I still don't really have a confident answer.
And if I asked you, what is assisted living and who qualifies and who doesn't, why would you know that? Or how would you even vet a home care agency or an assisted living facility or skilled nursing? How do I even know what to ask and how to even approach this? So that whole section of the book is
right. What are the options? What is even just the basic terminology?
Managing your parents' care long distance. What is Medicare, Medicaid, and paying for long-term care?
Everything is incredibly expensive, and way more than anybody I think ever thought of before.
Yeah, and then the last section is a prepared exit plan, which I'm a big fan of. We talk about what does successful aging look like, but there's also what does successful dying look like. And there's, believe it or not, a lot you could do for yourself or your loved one to be a little more prepared to have what I would call a successful death.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of people say, I don't want to be in a hospital. Well, that's possible if you actually have thought about it and have some support team in a plan in place. But long before then, your parents could be in this go, slow go, no go years with you being on their support team through that arc of I'm totally independent to I'm getting prepared to exit this world. And that's a lot of in between to educate yourself on what could I do? You could, if you're in a crisis, you're going to go straight to the chapter on how do I find really good assisted living and what questions should I ask? Or you might be, hopefully, your parents are in their 60s, they're healthy, they may not even be retired, and you're beginning these conversations early.
Way early.
Way early.
Yes.
Way early.
That's
the key. Principles and guidelines to give you a framework to approach a very big topic.
Yeah, I love that because I think that's the main blockage that I see for myself and for
Hmm.
my friends who have aging parents and for our clients
Hmm.
is just how do we initiate that conversation in a loving way that's not confrontational or that's not like trying to, especially like thinking of like the mother-daughter dynamic,
Hmm.
which is what we see the
Hmm.
most often since
Hmm.
we're
Yes, true.
doing work in homes and it's almost
Absolutely.
always
Hmm.
the eldest daughter syndrome. The eldest daughter ends up
True. It's true.
oftentimes being
Hmm.
regardless of location
Hmm.
of anybody else. It's a whole I could talk for days about that. But just thinking about like the mother-daughter dynamic and how for the daughters, talking specifically to the mothers, because
Hmm.
women live longer. So
Hmm.
we mostly see if we're
True.
decluttering and downsizing, it's
True.
almost always with the
It's
woman.
always a woman.
Usually her husband has passed first.
Yeah, that's true.
And which is also,
Statistically, it's true. I
yeah.
will say for any men who may be listening, I have seen some wonderful, wonderful sons who have stepped up and been very, very present for
Mhm.
everything. But that is not typical.
That is
It is
not.
almost always a daughter or a daughter-in-law that is sort of stepping up and helping in that role. Well, so one thing that might help you, going back to how to start the conversation,
Mhm.
parents typically really love their children. And like you say, I don't want to burden you. I
Mhm.
don't want to, but I don't want, especially if they're stopping really, really telling you what's going on.
Mhm.
So you make it about you. It's
Mm.
not about them. I don't know what I would do, Mom, if something happened to you, and I
Mm.
don't know what your wishes are. First of all, if you really peel it back, that's the truth.
Yeah. Right.
What am I going to do? But in a way, it appeals to your parents' love for you because they
Yes.
don't want to burden you.
Exactly.
And so they're far more inclined than you telling them what you think. I think you should do blah, blah,
Yep.
blah, blah.
And that's what I'm thinking, like the mother-daughter dynamic. I feel like that's so often
Yeah,
butt heads,
yes,
especially
but
like
don't
adult
even,
daughters saying
don't
like,
even.
I think you should do this. That doesn't, that's
No, it
going to shut
has to
down the
be about
conversation.
you.
Yeah.
I read in the paper about this situation, my best friend's mother and father, blah, blah,
Right. I
blah.
love the giving some other examples
Right,
too,
some
kind of
other.
takes the charge out
And
of it.
now what if it's me in that position with you and Dad?
Greetings, Dr. Eleanor Robin here. I ask myself, why do some people not have it in them to get rid of anything? And they kind of become prisoners or slaves to their stuff. And over the last few months, I've come to realize that one big reason is people don't know where to start. So today, I'm going to give you some tips on where you might want to start. Number one, you may want to start on duplicates. So if you have 6 potato peelers or 6 pairs of pants that you'll never wear again, anything where there's a duplicate, you may want to look through it, pick out the best 1 or 2, and get rid of the others. The next thing you may want to consider getting rid of are things that are aspirational. One day, I'm going to learn how to sew. So I'll keep this sewing machine and yards and yards and yards of fabric that I have bought at various estate sales for the day to come when I learn how to sew. That's aspirational stuff. And at this point in our lives, when we are in the third of life, we have to be realistic that these aspirations may never come to be. So why am I holding on to these aspirational things? Maybe for you, it's a piece of exercise equipment that's aspirational. One day you'll exercise. We have to just take a really good look and say, is this something I use today, or is this just for some pie in the sky one day? And if it's pie in the sky one day, it's probably time to get rid of it. And in the next episode, we can talk about how you get rid of things. And now back to you, Angela.
So, could we please just have a conversation? I would feel so much better if I knew what you guys are planning.
Brilliant.
What are you thinking? Dad, you're retiring next year. Or, I see that there's been some health challenges this year for both of you, one of you.
Mhm.
And looking ahead, we don't know what the future is going to bring.
Mhm.
And what if there's an emergency and I'm completely unprepared?
Yeah.
Do you know I don't even know who your doctor is. I don't even know what hospital you would want to go to. I'm not really aware of your real medical situation. And while I want to respect your privacy, this is talking to your parent, could we at least open the door to a conversation about how I could be on your support team? And since I live in another state, I'm making this up as I go.
That's often hard.
You know, could I get the names of, would you mind if I got the names of your neighbors and their phone numbers, or who are the people closest to you, your church, would you mind, am I on your HIPAA list with the doctor?
Yes.
If I'm not on your HIPAA list, they're not going to talk
Then
to
there's
me.
nothing. Yeah.
So could I go with you to meet your attorney, or who is your attorney? Have you done a will? I don't want to read the will.
Right. Some people don't even do the will at all. So right. So even just having that initial conversation of like, do you have a will?
Tell you how many times I sat down across from someone who has a multi-million-dollar home. And Mr. So-and-so, you do have a will, right? Because I have a list in the book. No, I don't have a will. It's all I can do not to, like clutch my pearls.
Yes. Right. Like, what? I not thought of it. Yeah. But it's because so many people, and I think I have a better relationship with death and dying than most people.
Probably.
And even then, I think for most of us, it's like, we don't want to think about our own mortality. It's such a hard thing to think about. And I was faced with it because of my health challenges.
Yes.
All of a sudden, it was like,
what?
In my face, and I realized I'd been kind of trying to control things so much. Like I became a functional health coach, and then that's right after that, the universe was like, "And here's your PhD. This is your dissertation for functional health coaching."
Well, I'm
like you don't have control over
I'm
everything.
a good example of that. In all of the presentations I do, I talk about how the curveball typically happens between 75 and 80. So you might be in the go-go years, and then you could be overnight in the no-go years. There's no guarantee, like you said, that there's this easy transition. If you had a massive stroke, or you got diagnosed with Parkinson's, or anything that
break a hip, or
correct,
whatever it is,
then boom, you are suddenly not playing golf or tennis or traveling, and you're suddenly dealing with an intense medical issue.
Which can happen at any age,
which
is why I'm like, I feel such peace of mind knowing I have a will.
Yes.
And advanced directives. Like
and
I know where my body's going to be buried
to people
someday.
your age.
Yes.
About doing a will. And people think, well, I don't have any money, or, I don't have, yes, but, do you have a car? Do you have some belongings, sentimental or not, that you would like to make sure go to people that you love, or that would treasure those items, or,
because it's not, the will isn't just about physical possessions in the world too. Like the advance directive and all the other documents is about, like, if somebody needed to make decisions on my behalf and I'm in the hospital.
Correct.
Right?
Which is your healthcare surrogate. Right. So I will briefly go over the 5 steps of aging successfully.
I was about to ask you that. Perfect.
And number 1 is, where do you want to live as you age? And as you said earlier, I can't remember if we'd started it yet, that 90% of people or higher want to age in place. Well, age in place, what does that mean? I want to stay in my home. I don't want to move to a retirement community or assisted living or skilled nursing, of course. And I don't know too many people who would say, yeah, I can't wait to. Although, if you ask me, I know which pieces of art I'm bringing to assisted living, should I have to go. And I'm not joking. However, most people say, I just want to age in place. But I say that is not a plan. That is a statement. It's not a plan. So what kind of a plan could you put in place? Well, let's start with, how age-friendly is your house? If your bathroom needs to be modified, are you going to wait till you break your hip and then try to find a vendor who can't come for 3 months, and then it takes another 3 months to finish? No. So if you do want to age in place, which is fine. I talked to a friend of mine who had double knee surgery. All of her bedrooms and bathrooms are upstairs, long stairs. And she's like, I can't even begin to even think about moving. And she's thinking about getting a chairlift. And I said, get the chairlift, stair lift now.
Yes.
Do the
Before you
modifications
really need it,
now. change what you need to make your home safe now, if that's your
Hire
choice
someone
to
to
age in
declutter so you can
place.
navigate around your
Yes,
home without falling in the middle of the
correct,
night.
correct. And that's that, most people get absolutely paralyzed by their clutter, as you know.
Yes.
And it's easy for people, especially as they start to lose loved ones or they've lost their spouse, they feel safe for sort of gathering all this stuff and
So the memories
holding on
attached.
to it. And in fact, they're making their home unsafe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think a lot of the blockage of someone envisioning their life post-retirement and even thinking about moving is because they have so much stuff in their home, even in a small home, regardless of the size of the home. If
Yes.
there's 30, 40 years worth of stuff and memories and emotional attachment to things, it's nearly impossible to think about, well, what would I do with all this stuff if I need to move?
I know someone who, and it's probably not unusual for you to hear this, who had, like, I'm not kidding either, 3 storage units that they were paying for hundreds of dollars,
It's a
hundreds, which
growing
they really
industry.
couldn't afford,
Yeah.
with all their stuff. Well, you cannot do that by yourself. You would absolutely need to hire someone. I'm always recommending you
Thank you.
because, and maybe perhaps people listening, are not in the Gainesville area, but there are professional organizers and there are national organizations where you could begin to search for someone who can help you with that process.
Yeah,
And
and making sure they're hiring somebody that specializes in decluttering and downsizing.
Yes.
Because regular home
Yes,
organizing
that's right. May not do that.
oftentimes they don't have the compassion, empathy, awareness of the aging process to do
I
the
think
work
that's really
that
true.
we do. It's technically what my team and I do in the world does, of course, fall under the realm of home organizing, but to me it's a very
I'm
specific
glad you said something
thing
about
we do.
that because it helps me realize that's absolutely true. You can't just go in unawares of the emotional impact that decluttering can have, and that the compassion it would require.
Right.
And,
Because some organizers will
and
just
the
like buy
patience.
bins and labels and make
Yes.
things pretty.
Yeah. But you're trying to say
We're helping people process their emotional attachment to things. That's like a whole nother level.
and it is a whole nother level. And so back to, step one is, where do you want to age? Well, that is not a simple question. And of course, as we mentioned, one might be staying in place, right? Aging in place. And so what could you do to make your home safe? But the second might be, I really should downsize, which is what the choice that my husband and I made. I don't need, my kids are gone. I don't have a house with 3 children in it anymore. I don't want the big yard. In my house, all the bedrooms and full bathrooms were all upstairs. So I already knew. And my son was saying, didn't you say that you were going to downsize? And, I always say,
He read your book.
I hope he read my book, Daniel. And that is true. Should you downsize? And if you are going to downsize, the time to do it is before you think you should and before you want to.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, now you're in that waiting for a crisis. Once the crisis happens, then it becomes impossible to move. And so downsizing, okay, great. In the same town you're living in now, downsizing closer to an adult child. Maybe it's talking to that child about whether or not they're welcoming and open to you being there, and having an older parent that's willing, as in my case, my stepfather, my mom died first. That was not what we thought would happen. So my stepfather was 6 hours away in Fort Lauderdale. He was willing, thank you, Bill, to move to Gainesville, to an apartment here. And I knew that meant I could be more supportive for him.
Yeah.
I could be there for him. I can't do much 6 hours away. And yet I'm positive that many of you listening, you don't live in the same town as your parents.
Yeah,
You live in another-
this is a relatively new phenomenon in the
Yes.
world.
Yes.
Where we used to we're born somewhere, raised somewhere, we stay somewhere, we have our
Right,
tight-knit
but
friends.
that's not
We have
how it
the
is
same friends from grade school, and like the world is completely
No.
different now.
I have
We're
a
all
son
very
in
spread out.
LA and a son in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And
here in Florida.
right. So,
Yeah.
and they're not moving back home, and I'm not moving to LA or Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So, and I'm just
That's fair.
typical. That's very, very typical. And so, where are you going to age, and how can you do that make decisions now ahead of a crisis. Number two, critical medical documents. We talked about that. And by medical documents, I'm talking about a living will, your healthcare surrogate, and a list of your hospital of preference, a list of your doctors and their specialties, the list of your pharmacy, information about your health insurance. Imagine that, especially if you're a senior or you're an adult child, and someone's asking you for this information, maybe it's God forbid, a 911 call, mom is passed out, your list is the emergency contact, and you don't even have any of the basic information, especially if you're long distance. Yeah. It doesn't take a lot of time to try to compile some information that's critical. I have a long list. It's a page at least, single space.
I'm sure.
But those are sort of some of the critical things. And then third, you won't be surprised, financial information. That would be a will, right? Or a trust, a power of attorney. Different. Power of attorney, okay, is someone you've appointed to make decisions for you when you're not able to, but you're still alive, okay? Once you pass away, that power of attorney is done, okay? That's different than a personal representative, who is the person who you've chosen to speak for you after your death, to carry out your wishes along with the attorney.
And again, all this terminology, had I not gone through my health challenges, I would know none
nothing.
of it. Like all of your words, I would have been like my head would be spinning.
And I understand that. And I've lived in this world for so long, I sometimes forget, what people don't know. Although when people do it to me, I'm in the same way, in a different realm. I'm like, what? What does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that stand
But
for?
that just speaks to me to the importance of getting this information out into the world.
Long.
Because people like me need to know that, right?
Here's one. Have you ever asked your mom, does she have long-term care insurance?
No.
And what if she does and you don't know it? I've seen that happen.
Yeah, I've never asked her that specific question.
Here's what
and she could have it, and it would be extraordinarily helpful potentially. But if I don't know that it exists, and I've seen that with clients too, where they have something that they didn't know, and they find money.
Care insurance?
Yep.
That could have paid for the last 5 years in assisted living or skilled nursing, but she got dementia and never told me, and I didn't know, and they don't pay it after the fact. So, I mean, you just...
Thank you for that.
Yeah. I mean, so there's a long list under financial and insurance, life insurance information. And this is not going to happen overnight. And you're not going to call up your mom and go, do you have long-term care insurance? If you haven't had a conversation, I'm like, what?
Right. You got to start baby steps, the introductory.
Yeah,
and
that's why you start way
for the future,
way ahead. So, and fourth is paying for long-term care.
It's so much more expensive than I ever would have imagined.
What did you think?
I don't know. I guess I just, in my head, not thinking about it much, I just kind of assumed it would be like the cost of renting an apartment plus a little extra.
Ooh.
In my head, and I don't know why that didn't. I had no logic of why I thought that.
Be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Unless
nobody knows. Most people don't.
Most people don't know. So I'm going to give you some very, very, very valuable information right now. No matter where you live in the United States, if you want to look up the cost of care particular to your geographic area for either home care, home health care, assisted living, skilled care, home health aid, look up Genworth Cost of Care Survey. Just Google Genworth, Genworth, Cost of Care Survey. Genworth is a huge, huge insurance company. They put out about every 2 years a national survey where you can go online and look this up and put in your zip code, name of your town or zip code, and it will give you the median cost of care for all of those things for your area. Now, I say your area, there is vastly different costs between New York and Mississippi.
Of course.
Or Michigan and Maryland. The most expensive place, don't move to Alaska where you could be paying $20,000 a month for assisted living or skilled care. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Just go to Genworth and look it up.
Yeah.
And if you ask me the average cost of care in the United States today, I'm not too far off. I'm upping it because I haven't paid attention to the increases, which are about 7%. Well, no, about 7% a year. They're going up.
Major
So for assisted living, and if you're not sure what assisted living is, there's a whole chapter on what is assisted living. I would say in the United States today that that's probably going to range between 5 and 10,000 a month, based on the level of need that the resident needs. And I even talk about billing models. How does assisted living bill you?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Right.
Are they, well, my mom doesn't need help dressing. Is that included? Because couldn't I pay less if she doesn't need? It's confusing. And there's one or two different models that they use in the book. And skilled nursing is off the charts. Skilled nursing would be, oh, well, I hate to say this, but probably for a semi-private room, about 7,000 to 8,000 a month.
Right.
And
It's
for a
almost like being in the
private
hospital.
room,
It's like the
12,000 a month
Right.
or more,
That's
depending
wild.
or more, depending on where your geographic location. So that's why I put that in there. Is you can't really age successfully without thinking about how I'm going to pay for long-term care. And people might be, I hope they're not, but I know that they are, because you don't know. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
But believe me, this happens to be my area of expertise, but that doesn't mean I know a lot about some other areas. So this is what you go to someone who knows, so you can educate yourself. So, the question becomes, if you don't know what you don't know, what is the cost of long-term care and how can I be prepared for that? And most people say to me, well, I don't need to worry about that. Medicare covers. Nope, no, no. Medicare covers 100% of the first 20 days, and then 80% or more, depending, for the up to 90 days, and then they stop. They don't pay for long-term care. Medicare never has and never will. And they certainly don't pay for home care. Now, you probably are saying, well, but my mom had surgery and she went home and she got some. Yes, if you're post a surgical event and you're at home and they're offering some support for a short period of time, after surgery. But if you're talking
But
about
what about the
someone
extra
who
10,
needs
20 years?
long-term care and never, ever, ever paid assisted living, and also doesn't pay for skilled nursing. Now, if your parents fall into qualifying for Medicaid, the time to talk to them about qualifying for Medicaid is, again, long before the need. Qualifying for Medicaid is a tricky process. And you often, I would say, if you can possibly afford to, go to an elder law attorney who can tell you whether you'll qualify for Medicaid, help you qualify for Medicaid, help you if you're wondering, will my parents, and the rules change from state to state. The rules for Medicaid qualifying are very different from state to state. My one word, my one phrase, my one kernel of truth here is, don't make assumptions about how much money somebody has and whether they will or won't qualify for Medicaid.
I'm interviewing an elder law attorney, by the way, coming up in 2 weeks.
Oh, awesome.
So I have
Excellent,
I'll have more intelligent questions now because of our conversation.
Absolutely. And then the fifth step of aging successfully has to do with a lot of research that's coming out now. I keep hearing more and more and more about it. And COVID taught us some very, very sad lessons about loneliness. And all the statistics coming out about how harmful loneliness is and social
worse than
isolation.
like 3 packs a day of cigarettes.
Correct.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Worse than 3 packs of cigarettes a day. I think I'll start smoking.
Yeah.
Never smoked. So how do we prevent that? If we don't know what our future holds, and we're already single, or you're what's called a solo ager, maybe a long-term solo ager, maybe you never married and never had children. That group is growing very, very quickly. And so that's not unusual anymore.
Right. Statistically, there are a lot more women like me who are single and child-free.
Single and child-free.
And I am aging, in fact.
Right. And so it behooves you to think even more carefully about building your support team. I talk a lot about
Yes.
what does that mean to have a support team, and who
Yeah.
could you rely on? And those are the people you're going to have conversations with since you don't have children. And then I talk to so many people, they're estranged from their children. Their children are drug addicts, alcoholics. I'm sad to say, but that's not
Yeah,
unusual.
there are a variety
Or
of
they're
reasons. The
mentally ill.
parent-child relationship is not a
Mentally
relationship
ill.
where you have those conversations
Or,
with the
you
parent.
know, their president, I mean, let's go to the other opposite. They're president of a huge corporation. They live in Japan and they love you dearly. And maybe they can help you pay for something, but they can't be there in person.
Yeah.
There's a
So we
million,
have to
zillion
build a support
reasons.
system.
That's right.
We have to build. And actually, I
Yes.
just had a relatively new friend who reached out to me with this beautiful, vulnerable text just last week. And she said, Angela, I think you're amazing. She gave me a whole bunch of compliments. She's like, I'd love to intentionally build a stronger relationship with you.
Uh-huh.
She's like, and she said, but she said the thing that really, that I think is relevant in this moment is she said, going into the beginnings of perimenopause and thinking about the future of my life, I want to be really intentional about building community with other women.
That is it. And no matter who you are, whether you're solo ager, single, no kids, estranged kids, you have
we
a
need
spouse or you
community.
have a
We
partner.
need community.
And for a lot of my gay friends, of course, they may or may not have children. Again, they're still in the same boat. I don't care if you're straight or gay or solo. You need community, not just because that's the person who's going to drive you to the hospital at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
You know, actually, I always say, don't do that. Call 911.
Yeah.
Okay. That's another conversation. But how do you stay connected? And so step 5 is, what is your raison d'être, your reason to be, your, why am I getting up? You know, you might be 85. Why am I getting up out of bed every morning and staying connected to my community and my life? You have to find your passion.
Yeah.
You have to find a reason that lights you up. And if you lose that, then you kind of lose your interest in life. And things.
And it can't just be your career. It can't just be your work. You have to have hobbies. You have to have community and connection and social interaction.
That's right.
And that's
look
partly
at all
why
the hobbies you have.
I have too many hobbies. I'm like, I have no worries about what I'm going to do in retirement because I have a million things I want to do all the time. That's not a problem for me.
It's like, I am too busy. I cannot be this busy.
Exactly. So coming back to related to that social connection piece, I think so many people that we encounter in my work, they say they want to age in place. Oftentimes the husband passes away first of that generation of 65, 70 plus years old. The husband often has passed away first because they were either the same age or older, and men don't live as long. So it's the woman in the house by herself, oftentimes a big house or even sometimes a smaller home.
Or it's a big house and they only use 2 rooms.
Yes, we have a client like that right now. But then she's by herself. And maybe she has some activities, like maybe she has a weekly class, like Zumba class or something or whatever. It's like she'll have a couple of activities, but if she's retired, she's not getting consistent daily interaction with other people.
Right.
And every time I see that, I'm like, okay, once I build enough rapport with clients, oftentimes I will have a delicate conversation with them about hey, have you considered where else you might want to live? Have you considered that? And it's like, especially if they've had a house for their whole adult lives and they're so proud of, that generation too. It's like,
that's right. It's my
American dream. This is my home. I bought it.
Getting harder and harder to realize these days.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my generation and younger, we just don't even bother trying because it's impossible. But that's a whole other story. But thinking about the aging in place, which everybody just defaults to that vision.
Right.
It's like, but what about connection? What is going to actually put you in physical, geographic proximity to other people? Not just your adult children, but your adult children, your friends, your hobbies, your activities.
I saw that.
How can you stay connected?
I saw that working at Oak Hammock at the University of Florida, a life care community. And by the way, the longest chapter, which is saying something, in the entire book is on what is a life care community and is it worth the high cost? It's a big question and it's a lot of information. I'm a huge fan of life care communities. They're not for everyone for obvious reasons, but they are a great option if it's something that your parents can financially afford.
Yeah.
But what I learned by working at Oak Hammock, and it doesn't have to be a life care community. It could be any community, a rental retirement community. It could be a community that has over time aged and coalesced around a support and
Yeah, even if it's
not
just like
even
a
something
subdivision,
formal.
but they
Right.
have like a clubhouse and a
That's
pool,
right,
and
right.
again, just
Which,
proximity.
by the way, has an acronym. It's called a NORC.
A NORC?
Yes,
I've
I
heard
talk
this.
about this. Naturally Occurring Retirement
Oh, I
Community.
love that.
NORC. There's lots and lots of studies
Yeah.
about NORCs that have like occurred over time
That
in a
makes sense because
community.
it's like a whole bunch of people have
aging in
kids,
place.
and
Yes.
it's like, oh, a community with a bunch of kids, and then they all stay, and then they're
Yeah.
aging, and they're all aging
And there's some
together.
famous ones around the country, and there's also some new organizations and groups trying to organize nationally and create different models within communities. It's happening in Florida
Amazing.
to meet the needs of an aging population, where you maybe have a coordinator that helps with rides or grocery shopping or getting you to medical appointments,
Mhm.
or gives you the names of the right vendors to ask to repair. These are big issues for people.
Mhm.
Anyway, that's a whole nother topic.
I want to have
Naturally
a whole
occurring
other
retirement
conversation with you about that, because I love building, like that's one of my longtime goals and passions in
We
the
can talk.
world,
We can
is how to
talk.
alleviate loneliness and how to work with the physical buildings, like apartment complexes,
Yes.
and like how to work with the physical buildings, but transition them to be more intentional living and building
Yes.
community.
Yeah, and I have a lot of ideas about that.
Amazing.
And I'm trying to remember the name of the organization that's national. And I know it's in my book, but it escapes my brain. It's
That's
not.
okay. We'll find it. People just have
But
to read your book.
But
We'll
yes, they
find it.
will. Yeah, good idea. I kind of start out with two principles we still haven't talked about, but in a way you sort of bringing it up. So we might as well end with this. But the two principles that I say are sort of the guiding light, besides the 5 steps. The two principles that are more of a framework to make decisions with you, for yourself, with your parents, or your loved, could be a loved auntie. I'd say loved ones. It might not be your parent.
Mhm.
Could be an adopted. It could be your parents
Chosen
of
family.
choice,
Mhm.
chosen family, not family of origin. And principle number 1 is, what decisions can I make that will maximize my independence for the longest possible time? Now, as simple as that sounds, it is not simple to apply. Here's a good example. This is what you reminded me of. You're sitting there talking to a woman who's in a big house full of way, way, way too much stuff,
Mhm.
and you ask the question, have you thought about moving?
Mhm.
If she could answer that question through the lens of, what would help me maximize my independence
There we go.
for the longest possible time,
Mhm.
or she had a support team or adult children opening the door to that question, that conversation, in which you said, but mom, don't you think this house is a little big for you? What would it be like if you moved
Mhm.
to a community that provided all this social interaction,
Yeah.
healthy meals?
Yeah. That client that lives in the giant
uh-huh,
house that
uh-huh.
uses like 10% of it.
Right.
She eats frozen dinners she doesn't
Right.
cook. She just uses, I'm like, you could
That's
be eating
not
decadent
unusual.
food at Okamek or the Village or
That's
somewhere
right.
else. I'm like, what?
That's right.
But so
And-
I did have that conversation during my in-home
Oh,
consultation
good.
with her. It's a friend's mom. So I
Is she
gave her
thinking?
a lot of extra time. I could tell there was resistance because she custom built her house. She loves that house, and it's valid, right? Of course, like I understand that. And I could tell that me as an external person, rather than her 3
So
children.
much easier to hear it from you.
Yeah, she was a little more receptive than she would have been, I'm certain,
Correct.
than with her adult
Sometimes
children.
a third party, by the way, like the outside expert, that I'm often called in to be that person, and it's so much easier than the emotional dynamics of an adult
Absolutely.
child. But that is an absolutely critical question, because if there's an open discussion about what would actually help that person be independent for longer, the answer may not be aging in place.
Right.
The answer may be, if we take all of the things into consideration that we know to be true about aging successfully. I used to do assessments when I ran the assisted living facility, and I would go in, and often I would see big house, husband has passed away,
Yep.
probably sometimes 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
Okay. She's been in this house alone. Now, maybe they're not driving that much anymore. So their world has just shrunk, smaller and
Exactly.
smaller and
Yep.
smaller.
We see
And
the
then
same
they're
thing.
losing touch with the outside world and with other people.
And they
I
get
saw
depressed.
people come to life. Everyone's like, I never want to move into. Have you toured some of these
Oh yeah, I would
communities?
move into the village now if I could. They have like 15 activities every day. I'm like, can I come
The
to
pool,
Zumba
the
here?
housekeeping, no maintenance, maintenance-free
Yes, and
lifestyle.
friends.
What's not to
Friends.
like?
Me, I'm such a social being too. Friends, like having friends nearby, having a community, in
Yeah,
addition
ride
to
the bus to the
activities and
Performing
food,
Arts
and
Center,
I'm
go
like,
to
this is a
fabulous
dream.
lectures,
Yeah. Yeah, I think people just
go down the hall
don't know
to
or can't. And so
exercise.
part of what my team and I do is oftentimes we're the catalyst for change. Not
Right.
always, but often
Uh-huh.
my team and I are the
Uh-huh.
catalyst for change, because once
Uh-huh.
we declutter enough, somebody can start to turn that mental corner. It's like at
Because
some
they're
point
thinking,
they're like, oh, well, maybe I don't want all this stuff, or oh no, oh, I didn't need all that stuff that we got rid of in the last few weeks. Maybe I can't. It's like just the
Right.
seed of an idea. Because we don't push people to do anything, of
You
course. Like,
can't.
that's not our role.
Right.
That's above our pay
Right.
grade. You know,
Right.
it's not our responsibility. I just had the conversation with her because
Uh-huh.
it was a friend's
Well,
mom, whatever.
good, and I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Because you just don't know, Angela, if you are like the seed of change, that little
Just
stuff
plant the
is-
seed of an idea. And the conversation that I had with her after asking her the question, like, have you thought about moving at all? I could feel that she was like, oh, but I love this house. I'm like, I know you do. I was like,
I
but
feel
but I
like
told her-
houses can be a prison.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and instead of, I know she had already had a lot of conversations about like other people coming in. She's in her mid 80s. She's still working part-time. She's a
Wow.
badass woman. I have much respect there. And I was like, well, and she said, oh, people are concerned about my health. What if I fall? What if this? What
True,
if that?
true.
Blah, 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 which is also all valid. And I was like, well, yeah, but I'm also concerned about your emotional well-being. It's like, I imagine it can feel lonely. Does it feel lonely
Did
here
she admit?
sometimes? And she's like, yeah. So even just that little bit of and this was after
Right.
an hour and a half of touring through her house. It's like even just admitting, oh yeah, it would be kind of nice to have I've been kind of depressed. I don't go out as much. You know, it's like, okay, well maybe
Right.
there's a way to not be so
And
lonely.
listen, life is a trade-off.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. Always.
I used to tell people when I worked at Okemic, nobody moved into Okemic that wasn't leaving, especially that population, that level of income.
Probably beautiful
Homes
tiny house.
on the beach, up in the mountains, in the golf course, big homes.
It's a
And yet
trade-off.
they chose to leave their big home and move into Okemic or any life care community, any community. Well, what would motivate them? Because they understand that kind of a decision might actually lengthen their life and give them more
Exactly. Better
quality of life
Yes.
than staying in a home and being lonely. Especially men, actually, especially men who lose, because they're the ones that really, really get isolated.
Yes, they don't have the social support
Often
that
the
women
wife
naturally
is their
have.
compass, their social compass, and their
We're the coordinator of
connectedness.
plans.
Yeah, and if they lose their wife, they often, especially the older gentlemen that are more old school. You know, we actually had a gentleman who did not know how to use a washing machine.
Wow. Oh my, bless his
My
heart.
wife did all the laundry.
Oh,
Wow.
dear. Wow.
But he was up there in age.
Yeah.
You know, as
But we become like the older generations were very interdependent. I
They're
think sometimes
very-
in really
yeah.
beautiful ways, where it's like
Yes.
you each get really
And
good
you
at
know
doing
what
different
any
things.
couple is. I don't
Yeah.
care what age. Any couple, they kind of fill the void in, you know, and
You figure out what you're
what
good
your
at.
skill set is, and but I know we got to wrap this up. but
Yes.
I have to just say my second principle, and then I'll
Oh, yeah, that's
promise
right.
to
Okay.
zip it. Okay.
Yes.
The second
Thank you.
principle I call just-in-time senior planning. And just-in-time is actually a term from the 1980s and 90s in Japan that the Japanese developed for the auto industry, and it was called just-in-time inventory control. If you're curious, you can look that up. But applied to senior living, I mean it to be keeping your planning, the big planner, to 3 to 5 year increments. For example, it will do you no good to try to plan for 20 years for your aging parents because A, you don't even know if they'll be still alive, whether they'll be healthy or not, or if they have dementia, or even if you already know they have some cognitive impairment. 3 to 5 years. Concentrate on a 3 to 5 year plan that's going to work for them. And the trick here is you're constantly evaluating. You're evaluating that plan every 3 to 5 years. Is that plan we put in place working?
And that seems more like chunk it down, right? Of just
exactly.
like, okay, the
People
next
get
just thinking
overwhelmed
ahead.
with, oh my God,
Right.
my dad just got diagnosed with Parkinson's. What are we going to do? And then they're paralyzed
Yep.
with indecision.
It's the
And
overwhelm.
who can blame them? Because
It's
you
overwhelming.
don't know. So stick to that 3 to 5 years. What's a plan we could put in place that we can all agree on?
Mhm.
And maybe it's, okay, mom needs some home care.
Mhm.
You don't need to worry about whether she's going to end up in memory care in 5 years because she has cognitive impairment. Let's just start with getting some help in the home,
Yes.
with some basic stuff.
And we refer people out to those services all the time.
Right,
All the time.
exactly. So, so that, because unless it was an immediate crisis, you're not moving your mom tomorrow
Right.
out of the house she's been in for. That may be required, necessary, but not now.
Yeah.
So I know I've given you way too much.
No, it's been perfect. Oh my gosh, Star, I adore your passion for this. Like I can feel your heart in everything that you share when you
I
get
just
so
want to
fiery
spare
about it.
people a lot of what I personally went through and encourage them to be proactive about this.
Yeah. And what are we here for as human beings on this shared
Yeah,
planet if
pay it
not to
forward.
relieve other people's suffering?
Yeah, that's a good
And
one.
that's so much of what you're doing with your book. Okay, so to close, where can
Yes.
people find you? Where do you want
Oh,
people to
thank
buy your
you.
book from?
Well, my book is available on any major book site. It doesn't matter whether you're a fan of Amazon or your local bookstore.
The links. Is it at the links?
Yes, it's at the links.
Okay.
I did a book
Give them a shout out.
presentation last year. They're
Perfect.
wonderful. Love them. So yes, the links carries it, or they can order it. Also, West Lab Pharmacy, which is on Newberry Road, they always have it on the counter.
Cool.
So you can get it through them as well. Or you can order it. And I think last I looked, it was on sale at Amazon for like $17.95. It was around 20. So it depends. When I'm speaking, I usually bring books with me, or the sponsor provides books. So, but that's the best way to get it. And I have a website, starbradbury.com. Just look me up, www. A bunch of stuff on there. And there's some free resources on my website. A lot of free resources. Questions to ask when vetting home care, assisted living, skilled nursing, that goes into even more depth than the book. So
Amazing.
it's been a pleasure, Angela.
Likewise, Star. You're such a delight and such
Thank
a
you.
joy, and I really appreciate you
Thank
taking
you.
the time to
Thank
speak
you for
with us.
having me.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right.
So stay tuned for the next episode of Making Space with Angela Dragon, and please comment. Let us know what resonated for you. Let us know if you're feeling overwhelmed. Let us know if you need some nervous system regulation after this difficult conversation we've had here. Let us know what you need. Let us know what you thought and any insights and takeaways you have. And stay tuned for the next episode.